A 70 to 80 degree angle is formed.
This angle must be
100 to
preserved.
110 degree angle is formed between the facial surface and
70
stone.
to 80 degree, 70 to 80 degree,
100 to 100.
Can you recall the tactile 70 to 80 degree?
This angle.
Time to sharpen again, huh? Well, I was about to explain a new approach to sharpening. Maybe you could help me out. All right, do me a favor and bring that clock a little closer so we can get started. Okay, ready to get on the cutting edge? Good. We'll start with the basic materials we'll need for the sharpening procedure. The sharpening stone we'll be using is an Arkansas stone. Along with the stone, you'll need lubricating oil, a test stick, conical stone, and safety glasses. Let's take a closer look at an important part of the instrument, the terminal shank. The terminal shank is the area of the instrument between the blade and the first angle. This is the key feature for each scaler or curette. What that means to you and me is that proper alignment of the terminal shank will automatically place the blade in the correct position for sharpening. This is where the clock comes in. Move the hands of the clock to 12 o'clock. You'll start all sharpening techniques from this position. Then, depending on whether you're right-handed or left-handed, the sharpening stone will be aimed toward either 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock, or more precisely 4 minutes after or before 12 o'clock. Your grasp on the instrument is also important. Here's what I mean. Take an instrument in your non-dominant hand and hold it up against the clock. Position the blade to be sharpened at 6 o'clock with the tip pointed toward you. Place your elbow on the table, but keep your wrist and forearm steady. Make sure you have a secure palm grasp on the instrument. Brace the top shank with your index finger to counterbalance the pressure you'll get when grinding on the lower blade. Now let's look at the sharpening stone. When using an Arkansas stone, you'll need to spread about 3 drops of oil on one side of the stone. If you're using a ceramic stone, use water lubrication. Grasp the stone by its lower half in your dominant hand. Hold the stone upright at 12 o'clock by placing your thumb on the edge toward you and your fingers on the edge away from you on the lower half of the stone. Now, move the stone with your entire arm in a fluid, rhythmic up and down motion. Well, those are the basics for sharpening all 3 of the instruments we're going to cover today. Okay, let's get into the sharpening. We'll start with the sickle scaler. The blade on each end of this instrument has 2 cutting edges that meet at the tip of the instrument. You can also see the lateral surfaces on either side of the blade, as well as the face and the back. It might be helpful to compare the dull instrument to a new instrument so that you know what those cutting edges should look like. Notice the light reflecting on the cutting edge of the dull instrument. A sharp instrument will not reflect light on this edge. Hold the instrument in your non-dominant hand with the blade to be sharpened at 6 o'clock and the tip pointed toward you. Be sure to keep the terminal shank at 12 o'clock. Brace the top shank with your index finger. Rest your elbow on the table. Hold the stone at 12 o'clock. Place the oiled side of the stone against the right lateral surface of the blade. Tilt the top of the stone slightly toward 1 o'clock. If you're left-handed, the stone will be against the left side of the blade and will be tilted toward 11 o'clock. Now, before you start grinding, think for a moment about what the blade should look like. The objective is to maintain the original design of the instrument. All right, let's begin by moving the stone up and down with moderate pressure against the lateral surface at the heel third of the blade. Gradually move the stone forward to grind the side at the middle third of the blade. Then advance the stone to grind metal away from the tip third of the blade. At this point, you should see a buildup of what we call sludge along the entire length of the blade. Sludge is the accumulation of metal shavings that become suspended in the oil. With a ceramic stone, you'll accumulate metal filings rather than sludge. That was good. Now wipe the sludge from the face of the blade. Rotate the tip of the blade away from you to sharpen the other cutting edge. Be sure to keep the terminal shank positioned at 12 o'clock and aim the top of the stone toward 1 o'clock, or at 11 o'clock for you left-handers. Again, start grinding the lateral surface at the heel of the blade, slowly moving to the middle third, and finally to the tip third of the blade. After removing the sludge, keep the terminal shank at 12 o'clock and then lightly rotate the conical stone along the face from the heel to the tip to remove any wire edges. So, I guess that means it's time to test it, huh? Grasp the plastic stick in your non-dominant hand and hold it between your thumb and index finger about half an inch from the end of the stick. The position for the test stick is 12 o'clock. Hold the instrument in your dominant hand with a modified pen grasp, as you would for scaling. To test the sharpness of the first edge, bring the instrument around behind the test stick, with the tip pointed toward you. Place the cutting edge to be tested against the left side of the test stick. Tilt the terminal shank behind the test stick toward 1 o'clock. Now, if you're a left-hander, you'll be on the right side of the test stick, and the terminal shank will be tilted toward 11 o'clock. Okay, rest your ring finger on the side of the test stick directly opposite the cutting edge of the blade. Press the cutting edge into the test stick and release. Be sure that you test the entire length of the blade. A sharp edge will bite into or grab the test stick so that the blade cannot slide. Do not try to shave the test stick. When the edge is removed, it produces a metallic sound. If the cutting edge does not grab the test stick, the blade is still dull or the terminal shank is not tilted toward 1 o'clock. To test the opposite cutting edge, turn the toe away from you. You'll come around the front of the test stick this time. Repeat the same process. Now, that wasn't so bad, was it? Great. Since the universal curette uses the same time settings as the sickle scaler, we'll sharpen it next. The design of the universal blade is different from the sickle scaler. It has two parallel cutting edges that meet at a rounded toe. The cutting edges of the curette are formed at the junction of the lateral surfaces, with the facial surface on top. Now, before you start sharpening, compare your instrument with a new instrument as a reminder of what those cutting edges should look like. Like the sickle scaler, you'll hold the instrument in your non-dominant hand with the blade to be sharpened at 6 o'clock and the toe pointed toward you. The terminal shank is positioned at 12 o'clock. Place the stone against the right lateral surface of the blade at 12 o'clock and then tilt the top of the stone to slightly less than 1 o'clock. Left-handers will place the stone on the left lateral surface and tilt slightly toward 11 o'clock. Begin at the heel third of the blade and move the stone in an up and down motion, grinding metal away from the lateral surface. Keep in mind while grinding, you need to use a continuous motion along the entire length of the blade. Once again, if you're using an Arkansas stone, look for sludge. Now rotate the instrument so that the toe is pointing away from you, keeping the terminal shank at 12 o'clock. Hold the stone against the right lateral surface at 12 o'clock and then tilt to a little less than 1 o'clock. Left-handers will hold the stone against the left lateral surface and aim the top of the stone toward 11 o'clock. Activate the grinding motion at the heel third of the lateral surface and proceed to the middle and then the toe third. To maintain the rounded shape of the curette toe, you'll need to rotate the toe toward 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock for left-handers. Position the stone at 2 o'clock, 10 o'clock if you're left-handed. Move the stone in a light, consistent up and down motion, rotating around the toe. Remember that your objective is to preserve the rounded shape of the toe. Again, keep the terminal shank at 12 o'clock and finish with the conical stone to remove any wire edges. Testing the universal curette is basically the same technique used to test the sickle scaler. Hold the plastic test stick in your non-dominant hand and the instrument in your dominant hand. Tilt the terminal shank slightly toward 1 o'clock or 11 o'clock for left-handers. Press the edge against the test stick, then release. If the instrument is sharp, the edge will dig into the test stick when you put pressure on it. And of course, listen for the metallic sound as you test both edges. Hey, you're getting good at this. Well, now it's time to reset your clock, because sharpening the Gracie curette takes us to a different time zone. The design of the Gracie instrument is very different from the universal and the sickle scaler. Because the facial surface is angled downward, the Gracie has only one cutting edge to be sharpened, the lower edge. Each Gracie blade is identified by a number on the handle. For all odd-numbered Gracie blades, point the toe of the blade toward you. For all even-numbered Gracie blades, point the toe of the blade away from you. Of course, left-handers will reverse this process. Hold the instrument at 12 o'clock with a firm palm grasp, with the blade to be sharpened at the bottom. Focus only on the terminal shank of the instrument and tilt the terminal shank toward 11 o'clock, or 1 o'clock for left-handers. Now position the stone against the right lateral surface at 12 o'clock and tilt the top of the stone slightly toward 1 o'clock. Keep in mind before you grind, the cutting edge on a Gracie is not curved to one side, but is straight as it comes forward off the shank. Now you can start to grind the metal from the lateral or side surface of the blade. Initiate the grinding process at the heel third of the blade and gradually move to the middle third and finally the toe third. Keep watching that buildup of sludge. You should see it on the entire length of the facial surface of the blade. Failing to round the toe of the Gracie curette is the most common sharpening error, so follow the same process as described for the universal curette. That's right, finish with the conical stone. To sharpen the opposite end of the instrument, turn the toe away from you and repeat the sharpening sequence. Now let's look at the time zones for testing. Be sure not to rest your ring finger on the top end of the test stick. Hold the terminal shank exactly parallel to the test stick, both at the 12 o'clock position. Press the cutting edge against the test stick and then release. A sharp cutting edge will immediately bite into the test stick, but should not shave the plastic. Well, I'll bet you didn't think it could be this simple, did you? Well, that's all there is to it. So the next time you need to sharpen,
A 70
This
to 80
angle
degree
must be
angle is
preserved.
formed.
don't get tangled in all the angles. Just keep your eye on the clock, and you'll be on the cutting edge in no time.